We all must unite in truth and not in politics nor religion at this time in this war. And then together, we will help President Donald Trump under God's divine intervention and save America. I'm John Michael Chambers, and welcome to Insights and Intel with Mr. Juan John, published every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern. I also publish a monthly one-hour program titled The 40,000-Foot View. Please visit and bookmark johnmichaelchambers.com and follow me on my Rumble channel to view these episodes. Also, be sure to visit thejennifermack.com and avail yourself to an arsenal of films, books, and swag for the MAGA movement. Powerful information, a lot of fun stuff with the signature of Juan John, if you will, all over it. And now, 30 minutes of Juan John. Juan's been serving this nation since the time of Ronald Reagan. He is very well connected, and I will leave it at that. His clandestine assignments and self-imposed directives, many of which are unknown to the public, play a critical role in protecting this nation and its interests for decades. A good friend and most valuable voice and resource for all of us here in the new media. Thanks again, Juan, for joining us and our audience today. Juan, it looks like your mic is off. Sorry. Welcome to the show.
I turned it off so we didn't have too much background noise for you while you're doing that beautiful intro. So I'm sorry about that.
That's all right. Well, thanks a lot. Maybe you want to mute it again. I'm going to have a 5-minute monologue, folks, to our audience here. This is a very important show. It'll be the only time I'm going to broadcast on this. And I can't think of anybody better to do this with than Juan John. We are at war. And now it's time we talk about General Michael Flynn, hero or traitor. While I don't want to misrepresent my relationship with General Michael Flynn, I will say that I met the general about 3+ years ago down in Fort Myers. I went on to interview the general on making sense of the madness at AMP News. You remember American Media Periscope. Being a media partner and platform speaker, I was with my American Media Periscope at the General Flynn Clay Clark Reawaken Tour. We were part of that from day one. And I've attended many group and private pressers, if you will, with the general. The general has personally complimented me and coached me, giving me direction and some criticism in the green room just before going on stage to speak. American Media Periscope assisted General Flynn and Patrick Byrne streaming more than once different online events and different things held by the general and his camp some years back. What I'm doing, folks, is I'm sharing a little bit of my experience. Then I'm going to launch into this program with Juan. I spoke with the general more than once privately, as well as private and small group discussions back in September of 2023, when Patriot.tv, its parent company, CBMJ, look up the ticker symbol and consider supporting a Patriot news outlet. I spoke with the general in private and group discussions back in September 23, prior to the acquisition of American Media Periscope into this new media forming conglomerate. General Flynn, you may or may not know, is a board director of Patriot.tv, whose mission, in my opinion, the mission of Patriot.tv, in my opinion, in part, is to build a new media conglomerate and to play its role in replacing the mainstream media apparatus that's out there today, the fake news outlets. And I would say that Patriot.tv, in my opinion, is developing and building towards becoming what Fox News pretended it was for over the past several decades. And for the record, and it's okay if we disagree, and I'm speaking to you, the audience, and to you, the Patriot influencers out there who we may differ, I consider General Michael Flynn an American hero, and consider this short list of those who despise the general, those who attack the general, those who do not feel he is an American hero. These are some of those entities. The fake news mainstream media, they don't care for the general. Judge Emit Sullivan and the South District of New York attacked the general. The entire left, the RINOS and sleepers in Congress, and the entire deep state apparatus. These are the groups that go against General Flynn. I'm not part of those groups. Me, I'm not in that camp. I do suspect that President Donald Trump has extensive intelligence resources at his disposal that go far beyond what you and I, as influencers and podcasters, have available to us. I know two things for certain. President Trump pardoned General Flynn for, well, let me back it up. President Trump brought General Flynn into his administration for a reason, and then later pardoned him for a reason. Trust the plan. I also know that as I opened up as platform speaker at Doral in May 2023, flying back here from Asia, President Trump closed out that same day on that stage via cell phone. General Michael Flynn held that cell phone up, and you can go find this on Clay Clark's platforms, held the phone up to the microphone, to the thousands of people in the audience and the million plus watching streaming to listen to the message of President Trump. Now, President Trump could have used that time as campaign pitch and to crush Biden and the deep state and cover some of the issues of the day, but instead, he spent approximately the 10 minutes with Flynn holding the phone up to the microphone, discussing and praising the accomplishments of General Michael Flynn, which tells me that occurrence and other behind the scenes occurrences that I don't have the time to get into right now, I believe that General Flynn may very well serve in the up and coming administration, whatever form that takes under President Donald Trump. And people like Pascal Najadi are very vocal about what General Flynn's role is today. I expect all kinds of proof from people commenting in the comments section of this show that side with Flynn being a double agent, a mole. Some say he's undermined the president concerning the January 6th event, if you can possibly imagine that. And others say he's undermining the president right now and is actually running for president himself, waiting for Donald Trump to be sent in jail by the Southern District of New York, and so forth. Flynn's been attacked as a Zionist, an imposter, a treasonous traitor. Before I continue, I encourage everyone to go to johnmichaelchambers.com and get a hold of the movie called Flynn, a #1 bestseller right now on Amazon and Apple. Juan, I know from off-air discussions with you, Juan, we have chatted a bit about General Flynn, and I know that you and General Flynn have a relationship, are connected. While I and perhaps you may not agree with everything that General Flynn stands for, and that is fine, that's good, healthy debate. But as you always say, Juan, pick a lane. Well, folks, pick a lane. My purpose in doing this episode, and it'll be a one-only episode with you, Juan, is to have this short 30-minute link available to the public to share. And I will say two quick things. #1, by the end of this year, give or take a few months in either direction, many will be eating crow and all will be known. 2, we are at war and under military wartime command. PSYOPs on both sides, information and disinformation on both sides. Flynn, with his diverse, high-level, extensive background, check out the movie Flynn, is a disinformation expert as well. So think it through on his statements about Q, for example, back in the early days and other issues that may have others confused. Keep in mind, all of our opinion leaders in this war have a role to play. And it's an ever-changing role, I might add, as this war is fluid. People like General Michael Flynn, the two Trump boys, Laura Trump, President Trump himself, Pascal Najadi, affiliated with Space Force now, as of January 2024. People like Dr. Jan Halper Hayes of the Department of Defense Task Force. There are so many others, including, and of course, Mr. Juan O'Savin. And for the record, you will never hear me argue with or call out or accuse or trash any other individual on the Patriot side or perceived on the Patriot side in the public square. Why? Because it doesn't serve our mission. Our mission is to expose the enemy that has been identified and take our country back before they kill us all. It confuses people to do that in the public square. So we know who the enemy is. that we are fighting, and we have our hands full with that. Fight the known enemy with everything you've got, podcasters. Internal wars and attacks against us from within, take that up one-on-one off the air. Be a man, be a woman. We are at war. If this were a kinetic war, the last thing I would want is that guy sitting next to me yakking away about things while I'm dodging incoming bullets from the obvious and agreed upon enemy in the heat of a battle. And for those that missed this, Dr. Jan Halper Hayes of the DoD task force stated that they are watching you. They are watching us. They have identified purveyors of damaging disruption by reporting false information and so forth as fact. She stated that they are tracking down the funding and even working with the FBI, and said that they will determine if the FBI may be a part of this or not. But the point is, they are watching and listening to everything we say. General Flynn has always told us, you must know your enemy. You must know who they are and how they tick. So to all those listening, you'd better find that out right quick. Do your research, come to your own conclusions, seek your faith and higher self, higher source, and pick a lane now. This show may run a little longer than 30 minutes, even though I strive to keep the Juan segments down to 30 minutes, but I've stolen 10 minutes of the time. I felt it important for me to voice my view here. So Juan, having said all that, in the world according to Juan, is General Flynn a hero or is General Flynn a traitor?
Well, John, you know, there's so many people that are just so ready to start fragging our own guys, shooting them in the back. I've been very clear over the years that General Flynn and I see some things from very different perspectives. Doesn't mean that either of us is right or wrong, even to point stuff out. I tell my staff all the time, look, if I'm not understanding something or if I've misstated something, if you see something that you have a problem with, let me know. I need people to be there to, give a different perspective at critical moments. That's important. If we all just walk along in lockstep and we don't have other people that can give differing opinions or directions, ways of going about things, then somebody isn't necessary. You need two forks, you need two knives. Everybody serves a purpose, has a role. And having people that are not attacking you, but may have a different perspective, a different way of looking at something, a different direction, is a very healthy thing. Now, General Flynn, a lot of what people have ascribed to, being a traitor to Trump or something like that, I remember talking with one of his relatives all the way back at the Trump Hotel in D.C. while he was still under attack and while he was being pursued to be prosecuted, to put in jail for telling lies to the vice president, which was totally false. Oh, but he confessed, he admitted it. Yeah, you know why he did? Because they were going after his son. And he said, okay, that's where it stops. I'm not letting them attack my family. I'll take the hit. I'm not letting it be done. Later was exonerated in work that another patriot brought forward, who himself didn't get much credit for it, Scott Bennett. And it wasn't Flynn's fault. It was the way the system worked, the way the paper was put into the people who were doing the legal work. And Flynn himself didn't know that Scott had done what he'd done. But the problem is, we have to be careful. We have clear enemies and monsters that we're in the fight against here in the Patriot movement. What they'd like us to do is to organize a great big circle and start firing at each other. Oh, there's a fun little kid. And so a circular firing squad, if you will. And they're laughing at us every time that they can con us into doing that. The reality is that Flynn, when he was campaigning for Trump, he was a Democrat. He came into the Trump campaign as a Democrat. He was a Democrat from being a little kid. His family was Democrats, yet a Kennedy Democrat type of mentality. Other military officers in the family in their history. Right now, he and his brother Charles, both generals. Charles still active. Michael Michael Flynn being retired at this point in time. Very rare to have two generals alive at the same time in the same family. To reach that level in the military is no small feat. And by the way, anybody that says that he's somehow a kiss ass or mediocre or something like that, in order to move up through the ranks of the U.S. military, you have to operate within certain parameters of predictability, workability, and you have to be restrained in certain ways. If you're going to be wild and crazy, you're probably not going to reach that level in a maverick sense, because the machine needs that coherency, that predictability, that certain pacing, that it can't have a bunch of people going wild directions. So they may not look as spectacular sometimes in doing their job correctly. Even then, Flynn was outstanding in doing some things to shorten up the turnover on intelligence in battlefield environments from months to days. He did some things that to a lot of people might look like it was just office work or something like that. Well, in that environment, he did some pretty amazing stuff. And I did 5.5 hours of interviews talking about Flynn back when he was under attack, looked like he was going to jail for life potentially. Additionally, when Flynn, Trump, he campaigned for Trump on the campaign trail in 2016. He put it all on the line. He picked the right side, by the way. The reason that the machine, the Democrats, the military, other officers hated him so much is because he knew where all the bodies were buried. He knew all the mischief that was going on behind the scenes in the intel community. Now, he couldn't just come out and start throwing stuff out into the public and saying all sorts of things. There's a certain methodology. That's why Trump wanted him in the position that he had appointed him to right after Trump came into the presidency, national security advisor to the president. He'd have access to the files, to the agencies, to the information, to the people, to advise Trump. And in that position, knowing where to look is as important as having the authority to look. Because these people hide stuff, it's like radar hiding stuff in the files. You go, I looked, I can't find it. Oh, yeah, no, that's under this other thing. What was the logic there? Flynn knew that. Justice Thomas the other day commented about Operation Mongoose, which was about overthrowing governments and presidents signing off on it. When we're going to have that looked at in a congressional setting, asking the question pejoratively. Well, a guy like Flynn might know just exactly where to look and what questions to ask and how to pull it out of the files. That was the danger there. So without delay, immediately after Flynn took over his job duties under the Trump administration, they worked very hard to set him up with this Flynn meeting and supposedly telling a lie to Flynn, which was false, later proven false. The attacks, even within the law firms representing him, actually being on the other side. That was something that Scott Bennett put together in a white paper. The short version on all of this, the short version on all of this is that it's easy for a lot of, outsiders and some ne'er-do-wells to go attack somebody like General Flynn, who've never done 1/bazillionth of the real work that he did in a very regimented and difficult situation, and with class, and to survive all the stuff and do it honorably, enough so that a Republican president thought enough of him to make him his trusted advisor right off the bat inside the White House. And the other forces that hated Trump, the ones that we've been fighting all along, knew was so dangerous, there was nothing they wouldn't do, including going after trumped up charges against his son in order to stop him from being able to operate. Trump, as you mentioned, John, did pardon Flynn when they wanted to continue to go after him, even when we showed that what occurred. He hadn't done any crimes. It was all bullshit. He was just being set up, if you will. And now in this current moment, we have people, like the January 6th thing. Like he did something on January 6th to set up the people of January 6th. Are you kidding me? He didn't have any authority. He wasn't doing things as though he could command troops around and make orders and do whatever. Being there and being the proximity on January 6th, he was doing what other Americans, including myself, did. We were present and accounted for. With that in mind, they've had to change their story because what a number of them said about his operations, activities, things he was doing to set up people on January 6th were proven to be totally false, complete, made up, total bullshit. So then they went after his brother, as though his brother did a bunch of stuff. Look, court's all done. You're going to find out that Nancy Pelosi had the authority. She was the monster on that date. And then there was all sorts of setups, including from overseas, to create a scenario to set up the American people as supporters of Trump on January 6th. Look, he had people from Ukraine, they're present, being managed by CIA personnel on the payroll of senior executive service. And they were there as Orange Revolution people trying to set up patriots in the crowd on January 6th. You think Flynn did that? You think some of these other patriots did that were there in January 6th? No, it's an operation, just like they've done overseas, done right here in U.S. soil by traitors, treasonous traitors. Flynn was just there being president and accounted for, had no involvement in any of that bullshit. It's like so many things. They throw out 50 theories to try and throw you off target of what the real one is. You're stuck in a hall of mirrors of lies. Every next one more outrageous than the last to keep everybody looking somewhere else. General Flynn, I've spoken with numerous people who served with Flynn, worked under him, worked with him in various locations. I personally haven't met anybody who thought that he was anything less than a stellar operator, very controlled, disciplined, doing the work the right way, and being innovative even in a difficult situation. As I said, I did 5.5 hours of presentations about General Flynn, a couple different ones, years ago, 5 years ago. And nobody's ever refuted anything I put in there. He was a good guy. To now, at this critical moment, have people wanting to throw bombs into the next foxhole and blow up Flynn and people around him as though they're doing something wrong is just asinine. We need to keep lead going downrange. I don't agree with him on every detail of what's going on or what needs to be done. But I'm not unhappy that he has a different perspective and insights. That's what makes our group healthy. is to have other opinions and to be able to share those opinions without having to blow the other guy up just because he won't say it our way, on our timing. That kind of centralized control bullshit is exactly why things go off the rails. Smart guys having an honest conversation in a difficult moment and trading information and then coming to the best decision is the way we do it. And that's what's going to save America. Everybody doing their part at the critical moment he is. Now, he just had a movie that came out just a couple weeks ago. I'd encourage everybody to go watch the movie. Form your own opinion. And at the end of the day, you don't have to love him. Just understand he's coming from a different perspective. And you know, he hasn't been supportive, for example, of the Q stuff. Why? Because he understands it is a military operation. There is a component there that is a active information and disinformation operation. He wasn't behind the firewall. He didn't get time enough to serve. Okay, so it doesn't mean that he would know every last detail. And by the way, 99% of the people out there don't, never have been, never will be. The information's there. Within that operation, by the way, let me just add, that's a time machine. A lot of the stuff that you read, you have to understand that when it says things like military in control, that's anticipating a moment in time. It's telling you what the future will look like. And by extension, a reasonable person looking at this in an AI sense, augmented intelligence, anticipating future events and getting there first, would say, well, if eventually on some certain date out in the future, if you are able to own the outcome of certain events and be in control, then were you in control all along? Future proves past. But this is a contest. They make a move, we make a move. Is their strategy better? Are their computers better? Are they better at telling the future? I'm out here in the future right now, by the way, in case people didn't know that. I'm many hours ahead of most of your people. I'm experiencing a day in advance, past the other side of the date line. But in reality, when you're augmenting your intelligence with computers to look at what happens when you make a move or somebody else makes a move, and to go out several moves in advance and then see what the consequences, wisdom, is the ability to foresee the future consequences of present action. If you've augmented your intelligence with AI, artificial intelligence, with good information, because it's only as good as the information you feed into it, to try to anticipate what things you can do to alter and change the course of history, to avert certain situations and to encourage other situations. That's the benefit of an AI, to repeat these over and over and over, to make minor changes. Do I move the pawn or do I move the rook? Do I play the queen at this point in time? On multiple levels, and then game it out over and over. You know, you're going to go fly a plane, you have to go through a simulator. That's the cheapest, fastest way to do it. Over and over and over till you get it right on the timing, on the sequence. And understanding if you're in an event, if you're in something that's not normal flight, what is the best procedure in order to get through that event, how to anticipate the unexpected. And that's been done. Has everybody been read in on every aspect of that? No. Why? Because they don't need to know. Even people in high-ranking military positions. And by the way, if he's a Democrat, even if you trust him, trust but verify, maybe Trump would have read him in at some point in time, would have had him read in. But then again, once an operation starts, a lot of times you don't bring people in late. They can't come up to speed on enough things. Having information out in the public that give people a point of reference, an anchor concerning events out in the future, to put them at some sort of rest or stability, even though it may be grinding, it may be gruesome, it may be harrowing. that at least you know somebody is working the problem and has anticipated some of these things so that you have the opportunity to survive. And oh, by the way, those people that attacked General Flynn, attacked his brother, attacked the American people on January 6th, their day is coming. They can say all the bullshit they want to. They crap all over Washington, D.C. and the media and the American public. But at some point, we're not going to be worried about the bullshit anymore. We're going to be worried about the bull. And that's what Trump's doing. That's his role in this thing. He's kind of like my chief of staff, who was an A6 pilot. You go into a combat area, theater, and you try to get the enemy to turn on their radars, shoot you down. And then you start jamming, you start doing certain things to protect yourself. But the real issue is you're not attacking targets personally so much as you're getting people to turn on radars while you dodge and dive, and the F-18s come in behind you and wipe them out. Trump is in that role. And we're seeing who are the real enemies of America, not just Trump. Like Trump said, they're not after me, they're after you. I'm just in the way. That's this moment that we're in. Flynn has played that same role. By the way, Trump talks to Flynn several times a week. Trump respects Flynn's insight. General Flynn would like to be vice president. If something happened to Trump, he'd like to be an option to the American people for president. I'm not going to hold that against him. He has been very, very, very vocal about the fact that he is a Trump supporter, wants Trump back, knows that Trump's election was stolen. He's gone out of his way to make that clear over and over and over and over again. But he's also understanding that if anything was to happen, something we can't even imagine, that somebody pulls out of a box to attack America and attack President Trump, what do we have for options? He'd like to be one of those options. I wouldn't hold that against him. It's probably not the person I personally would back, but it doesn't mean that I wouldn't back him. Right situation. Look, we're coming into a wartime era. We need a wartime president here shortly if we don't get Trump back with all the dramas that are coming. So having options, that's a healthy thing. That's stabilizing. I want to win. I want to live. America needs to win. And having a guy like Flynn with other views, other ideas, other opinions is the healthiest thing I can think of. I wouldn't have a second thought of being in the same foxhole with them, and have no issues having any discourse that might come up or be needed. He'd be somebody that I'd rely on, just like President Trump does, to have a solid opinion that has been earned, where he may offer insight, thought, direction. That's a beautiful thing for all of us. And those people, those ne'er-do-wells that have more time to criticize and throw bombs than they do to actually do anything. You know, they can say they did stuff, they do it with somebody else's stolen material, and that they didn't actually generate. Say they paid an attorney or did whatever. Did you? When all the people around them begin to go other directions and decide that they won't stick with them, you will know them by their fruits. And in the case of General Flynn and the people around him, by the way, even like you mentioned with the media thing, they're putting their money where their mouth is, their life energy, and they're trying to entice and make a good explanation for why other patriots throw in with them and try to come up with alternative media options and make it work, make it make sense, make it, profitable. That's America. The business of America is business. That's how we do it. I'm a total fan, and I'm very appreciative of him and the people around him with the work that they've done.
Well, thanks a lot, Juan, for weighing in. Very articulate. You've covered a lot of ground. We're going to wind the show up in a moment. I just want you to weigh in specifically as we wrap this up, it being such an important subject. Again, I won't call them accusations. That wouldn't be the right word. The notion that has been put forward in certain narratives out there today is that General Flynn has used this new media merger, Patriot.tv, as well as the General Flynn Clay Clark Reawakened Tour, and now the Flynn movie. In other words, his stellar efforts as a private citizen over these short couple of years here, that the culmination of these activities are clandestine. They're specifically to slide in when Trump isn't there, and whether to run for president. In your opinion, is General Flynn running for president of the United States right now? Because that's what's out there.
Well, again, I discussed this, back when he was being attacked. Family members will tell you that I said, you probably ought to run for president. You're really running for vice president, but you've been right there. You know the stuff. A lot of times we have different people that get in, they run for president, they have the conversation, they widen the conversation, and they're trying really, if in this case Trump becomes president, they're helping the broader movement, talking about things that need to be discussed openly in the public and encouraging them to, they have a viewpoint. They're available for office. They're available for the vice presidential pick. Who knows what the world is going to look like in 3-4 months? There's so much in play, John. I'm telling you, things are going to change so radically that people that might not look like they're a right option right now may look like a much better option under the circumstances as we come into a wartime setting, a wartime moment. Do you want people that don't, whoever is the vice president has to be ready, capable of stepping into that office in a heartbeat. And they have to have people around them that they can rally in with them, because the presidency isn't just a person. It's a whole team. It's a whole operation. I think that Flynn has made the right kinds of contacts and built out with his conversations a large number of people that would be the right people to step into various offices around him that he would trust at this point in time. It doesn't mean that that's what I'm pushing. It's not the perspective that I personally have, but I think it's a healthy conversation and perspective. And everybody shows up at the horse race and does what they do, and then we'll see where we're at. Even if he wasn't to be a VP candidate, would he go back in and be an advisor to the one that does become president again? Trump coming back, would he be an option in a true emergency if something happened to President Trump that we had to do something else, God forbid? Who on the horizon might know enough detail within a military command type situation to be able to quickly and efficiently and smoothly roll into that position? Is it going to be somebody that was just a newscaster and a pretty face that can learn quickly and is very intelligent, but time, speed is everything? There's very few real options, and you'll know them by their fruits. In a tough situation, I wouldn't have a second thought that on a moment's notice, if I had to make a choice, he'd be in that upper tier of people that we would not be doing a wrong choice to put him there. And then people saying that he's somehow running a covert intel operation like that. There's a lot of stuff that's not out there to be made public. He has assisted on stuff behind the scenes that the American people will find out about over the next couple of years, probably, that was very, very, very sensitive, and given advice and offered people to assist on. I think the American people will feel very well served as the true facts come out about this very wonky period, with things that occurred behind the scenes to get the data, get the information, get people to talk on film and do actually covert intelligence operations to get the actual data concerning how the vote was stolen in 2020 and 2022. And he will look very well in that period as these things come out over time. I'd get in the foxhole with them anytime and shoulder up. And I have no second thoughts or questions about that. And I would ask all of the listeners here, if you have a question, well, go watch the movie. If you don't want him there, okay, that's fine, but do it for reasons that are real, not somebody's bullshit ranting. You know, one of the things I've noticed, these guys that puff up and they're flapping their arms and they're just screaming and everything else, it's a lot of theater, and then just because they're so upset, you're supposed to believe them. It's actually a ploy. It's a common ploy where they are just, literally badgering and pushing an angle, with their intensity, like that makes whatever they say true. Well, it's just not a fact. That bluster is just that, and I think we have to be a little bit more mature. This is a guy that's done real work, has a real history, has been successful at that. Look, I don't want guys that haven't actually, accomplished things recently, in their, pushing these buttons all the time. They may have had a history somewhere back there, but in the current fight, the way it is right this second, do I just need somebody that made some money doing business, or do I need somebody that has a current understanding of what's really going on, especially behind the scenes and how it works and on the attack? And if Flynn has been able to rally other patriots to get in here and try to build out a media network with his assistance, his advice, his input, I think that's brilliant. That's exactly the guys I want around, doing current stuff and not just ranting and moaning and pointing fingers.
Local action, national impact, one of the general's slogans. Thanks a lot, Juan. Great segment here today with you on the subject of General Flynn. I'll weigh in real quick and on the
Oh, well,
closeout.
let me add one little quick thing too. I apologize, but
That's
I know
okay.
some of the other businessmen who are working with him on that project. They're outstanding patriots, businessmen. They have great insights. They've done stuff in the media. They have a real history that they have chosen to shoulder up with someone like General Flynn is as much a testament to General Flynn that they know him personally enough and are bringing him in as a business partner and associate in these endeavors. That's a big statement, because it's very hard in the current environment to do this kind of business well. And there's so many treasonous traitors. There's so many Judases because they're in it just for the buck. I know for a personal fact that the other people that are there, they're contributing to things behind the scenes. They'll never get their money back, and not tiny amounts. They're putting huge hours of the day and night into trying to make these things work. And if you make a media group that makes a buck, it means you can hire reporters. It means you can have good equipment. It means you can dominate against these other groups that are run by three-letter intel agencies and PSYOP agencies to try and push them off the pedestal. It's not an easy thing to do, to even have the guts and the mental fortitude to try to map out such an operation and then give it your very best shot. That is, in this environment, that's quite an achievement. So I would just ask people, pray about it, okay, and ask God, is this a good guy or a bad guy? And if you don't like him, okay, well, fine. Go do something else. There's plenty of other people to work with and support. He's in a lane. The other guys around him have picked a lane. I don't think it's against the American people giving other opinions and insight and options to hear the news. I don't expect them to say it the same way or have the same viewpoint as everybody else. And if they end up blocking some people, not letting them in, maybe those people need to be blocked in the current environment because they're out of their mind and they're assholes. We're trying to have an honest conversation to save the country, save the world. And that's this moment that we're in. So anyway, that's all I got to say there, Joe.
Well, thanks. You sparked three quick things I want to comment on, and then close out with a question and wrap the show up. Again, folks, I said this one would be on 30 minutes due to my stealing of the time at the beginning. And you know, Juan, just now, you mentioned, you know, the collective group that's putting their best foot forward and putting a lot on the line, and General Flynn included in the media, Patriot.tv, CBMJ. You know, folks, it's what the term we've been hearing for how many years? It's an information war. You know, what was one of the first things candidate Trump did in 2015? Fake news. Called it out from day one. So if we're in an information war and you've got these patriots putting everything on the line to it's a weapon. It should be looked at and supported. We have to get information somewhere, right? We're not listening to Fox News anymore. We're not listening to CNN, MSNBC, and all these people, right? And you know the list of fake news. So find your news channels and support them. I want to also say that, you know, this is divide and conquer well underway. I just throw that out there within our own movement. Hey, guys, what are we doing? What are we doing? We know about the Cloud and Piven thing, right? The entire thing that they do to cut us to shreds, wasting our effort and our time and our light and our energy and our resources and our voice, fighting against each other. Do that off camera, because you're not serving the people. And the last thing I'd like to say is, you know, for those that, because I expect to get bombarded from this show, and that's okay. I'll do it once. We put this out there as a definitive piece, and we're going to move on to all the other issues that are paramount. First off, for the record, I believe that General Flynn is not clandestinely trying to run for president at the expense of all of us. Number one. And number two, I believe he will, I hope and pray Donald Trump returns. I believe he will. Of course, he is the commander in chief. He's going to need to return to that. But you know what I'm talking about here come the no election in November. And Juan and I will talk about that in an up and coming episode. But, you know, I see Donald Trump grabbing the reins in some fashion or another when the 2020 is nullified and the duly electeds are reinstated, and the continuity of government and the devolution aspect of this thing starts to take place later this year, beginning of next year at the latest. These are my opinions. I will also weigh in and say that I believe General Flynn will serve in a very important capacity at that time, officially in an administration, and I fully support that. Lastly, boy, I wanted to make sure I didn't forget this, and it looks like I'm going to. Okay, well, in closing out, Juan, information's now been provided out there, and I haven't had a chance to vet it. But the no-fly zone over Mar-a-Lago is going to be rescinded. You know, no aircraft flying over that zone, which is, you know, acting White House, if you will. Do you know anything about that? And it's supposed to end the last day of May. That's pretty telling. Any quick comment on that as we wrap this program up?
Well, it's at certain altitudes, and you know, they rerouted the traffic out of Palm Beach, West Palm Beach Airport, to go right over Mar-a-Lago as soon as Trump was out of office years ago, and they've been playing with that all the way along. It's something that is frustrating, but there's lots of risks there as it is. I probably wouldn't get too amped about it. This administration has done lots of wonky things. I look at the security for Robert Kennedy. Bobby gets no security. He's a valid presidential candidate where there's a history that cannot be ignored, and yet they're not providing special security for them. And it is the president, the people behind him, that have the option to take care of that. I think it's atrocious. I think it's brutal. In fact, had something else in the background that we were dealing with earlier today, and had a note back and forth. Look, I'm not losing my way. I don't think that Robert is the right person for the presidency, but this is an important person that has an important voice in this campaign mode. And then having to operate under these threats that are actually real and out there, and having to cover that personally and still run a campaign. I think it's detestable. We changed the law years ago for exactly the kind of reason that exists with Robert Kennedy's security issues in the campaign, running for an office, leading America, highest office in the land, if you will. And we can't protect him. He's got good security. They do it at a huge expense to himself in the campaign. It does impact his ability to focus on the campaign. And it's again, these kinds of things, these kinds of decisions. Look, what I loved about what Robert said, and I mentioned it in the communication earlier today, I loved when we were out in San Diego, and he said, wouldn't it be refreshing to have a Democrat presidential candidate who believes in the Constitution arguing some of the issues of the day at the presidential debate later this year? This was last year when he said that, last May. Arguing these things from a constitutional perspective as a Democrat.
Oh, I've lost 107. Okay, we're going to hope Juan comes back in. I'm going to give him 3 or 4 minutes. If he doesn't, we will wrap this show up. I'm going to turn my cell phone on. Bear with us, folks. We'll hear the rest of Juan's dialogue again. If I'm going to see if I can text him, let him know he's dropped off. It's no secret he's in Japan there, and I'm over here on an island in Southeast Asia, and the internet is what it is. So I apologize for that. We're not in some slick studios right now with all that stuff going down. Let me text Juan real quick. Log back in is the term here. Log back in. I'm live. Okay, well, there you have it, folks. This is called not a lot of funding behind us and no real slick studio, but we're getting the information out in this war is what we're trying to do. So anyway, I do want to say this. Anybody who's going to leave, harsh and kind of off-color comments about this broadcast, if it makes you feel good, go ahead and do it. It's completely unproductive. You'll sway nobody. And I just say, if you are a true patriot, or you do truly care about freedom and your children and grandchildren and this country and the world, all of humanity, or as Pascal Najadi says, a human species, if you do care, just change the channel. Find a channel that resonates with you. Why are you wasting your time here? I don't waste my time in places I don't agree with. And I'm not out against anybody there. If you're on our side, if you're on the side of love, light, God, freedom. So that's my statement to the incoming that'll hit us. Looks like Juan's not coming back in. It's been a great broadcast. I want to thank 107, and I want to thank you, our audience, for joining us. We are at war. And when things don't add up, just know that everything will be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's simply not the end. So never give up. We must unite in truth, not in politics nor in religion. And remember, where we go one, we go all. Stay safe out there, everyone, and may God be with you.